Hello, everybody. My sincere apologies to you. I was not being allowed to open my own Zoom, and so I had to reboot. And fortunately, it worked. So very happy to have you all on. And Lloyd, where are you?
I just got in. You just let me in.
Yeah. I'm very perplexed about why that happened, but um, nonetheless, here we are. I'd like to welcome everybody to the first of our point of view Zooms that we're having. This is the very much the brainchild of Lloyd, Matt Merrill, Brittany Wright, three younger officials in a relative manner of speaking, who are very energetic, high intelligence folk, and I've very much appreciated the suggestions on the part of Lloyd for this new series. The idea is that we focus on the less experienced official to give an up close and personal view of what is actually seen by the official during the event itself. And lap counting is something which I think all of us can use some help with. I can tell you a couple instances in which proper lap counting could have saved the day. One was in the 23 D2 national championships outdoors that were held in Pueblo, Colorado. It was a men's 10,000 race, and a lap counter had gotten off, and so had gone from lap 8 instead of to lap 7, went to lap 6. And none of the people who were counting laps had caught that error. So when it came down to the last lap, there was just total chaos. Um, so that's one example. Another example is from a conference championship, again D2, in which lap counters were not being very direct with the runners in telling them how many laps they had left. And there was a young woman who was running her very first track 10K race, and so had no experience, couldn't have any kind of relative standard by which she could gauge anything. She was not informed of how many laps she had left, and so she ended along with where she thought she should, but it ended up being one lap short. And of course, officially, she is down as did not finish. And it's just a shame because she had run all those laps and was doing her job to make her race work for her. So, with that, I'd like to turn this over to Lloyd.
Well, thanks for the intro, Scott. Thank you for speaking on the importance of lap counting because that's pretty much our sole focus on the finish line these days. I'm going to be pretty quick. I'm going to try to do my best to keep this within an hour. The actual video you will see the video that we put together is about 30 minutes and allows another, less than that for discussion afterwards. But as Scott said, we are going to focus on that. We're not doing a rules review. If you need a rules review, the best practices are there for all of the events that we're going to do. So we've turned the camera around from our point of view, watching and what we're seeing and what we're thinking, and that's the whole process that we're going through. I'm going to start this video really soon. Put your questions in the chat. I have Chris 40. He should be on here. He's going to be managing the questions in the chat. I will get to them at the end of the video. Um, I'm going to tell you right now. So everyone, please mute themselves because then you will get those blank outs of the video. Someone who just signed in, please mute yourself. Um, there's going to be a question. It's the elephant in the room. How do you account for people that are lapped on the paper? Okay, that's the elephant in the room. All right, you're not going to see me do that on paper. I have pictures of other people who have done that at the end. So, other questions, just type into the chat. All right, so let me start the video. Where are you? Hold on. Let me get to it. Open, share. There you go. All right. Can you guys see a black screen with a bunch of words?
We can see it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Read that because that's going to be a disclaimer that goes onto all of the videos. And the video is going to start now. Thank you, Brittany, for helping me put this together. Always start with what equipment you need. All right. So you are working a finish line. These are the minimum supplies that you need to work on a finish line from a local level all the way up to a professional level. All right. The first thing you're going to need is at least one stopwatch. I prefer that brand. This is not an advertisement, but I prefer that brand. You want to get something, those are 100 splits. Some have 30, but have one if you're doing multiple races at a time, or you're understaffed, have a second watch so you could start one while the other races, while you're reading off the times for the previous race, which happens very frequently at a very, very busy meet. A whistle, if you need to communicate to the starter to hold on because of, let's say they're on the other side of the track and there's an obstruction, there's a down athlete, timing isn't ready, you know, that whistle is always there. Okay, I carry laminated lap cards. Sometimes the electronic boards go down, which they have, and these are just the backup. So you could do it however you want. I laminate them. That's just one number. I have a stack from 1 to 25 in case your manual board is stuck, you're outdoors. You know, sometimes in the rain it gets stuck, so you could just pull them out. If the electronic one freezes, you could just take it and pull it out to communicate laps to the athlete, because that's actually part of the job, to communicate laps to the athletes, at least at the very least to the people on the lead lap. So you should carry some form. That's 8.5 by 11 regular paper size. Some people have smaller. All right. Very important thing, clipboards. I have a clear one there. Indoors, outdoors, I have a weather writer. For those who feel that the finish line is not important for a backup, have these clipboards. You need something to write on. I mean, this is just my lap sheet here, but you'll have heat sheets to keep track. Again, you are the manual backup in case lightning strikes. Something to write with. How many times I see officials show up to a meet to sign in and they don't have a pen? I'm like, with the exception of a starter, who does not use a pen or a pencil at a track meet? Something to write with, please. And lastly, flags, for the same way that you would communicate with the whistle, for if the starter is waiting on you to start the next race, to make sure the track is clear, and just general communication. So it's a very simple equipment set up for working the finish line. Okay, we will move on to the next segment now. The first thing you do, you determine your spacing. I'm going to pause for 1 second. The cinematography of this is done on purpose. When you see it straight up and down like this, it's because you work in the finish line, you need to be a narrow focus. So this is done by design. When you see it turn sideways, that is also done by design because you your point of view is a wider view. So this is done on purpose. The finish line is here. Your area is 10 meters after. See that red line? It's 10 meters before and extends to the infield. That is your area. You make sure it's clear of debris. You have the proper cones. You see that blue cone there for the front part of the zone. The end part of the zone, those other blue cones. You make sure, in this case, we have a digital map board. We have the counter over there, the iPad. Make sure your railing is all in place. You have a clear line of sight with the timing people or some form of communication. You stay away from the cameras. You see, in this case, it's on a pole. So you are not standing right here because there's sometimes a camera above you on both sides. So stay out of the way. Here they have a bell which is over on the side. Sometimes it's usually in this area, a manual board, but it's wherever the facility is. So in terms of setup, that's actually all you really have to do. I will get into more later. Here you have the long jump, so you've got to be very cognizant of what's going on next to you in the finish line. You may have athletes that are warming up back here, so all of that has to be mitigated, right? Today we'll be on the inside, sometimes you're on the outside. All of these things we will get into. So also, as you are, even though you are not a line clerk or a starter's assistant, you must know where, in case anybody asks, where the various start and break lines are. There's a 2 mile, every facility has different colors. They all have different things, different places, the staggers, with different relays. This is an indoor facility, so you can see it's a little tighter. Outdoors, it'll be more spaced out. Again, it's not really your job, but still be familiar, in case anybody asks you, where these lines are and what they are for. All right? What is the egress? In this facility, they can either exit out that way, or they can actually exit down these stairs here. Sometimes you are the marshal also. As you can hear, there's music here. So you also have to be, you have to deal with those things too. At a local meet. Of course, at a championship meet, the national championship meet, you will not have those sorts of issues, but we are doing what we need to do to get the track meet moving. That's on a curve start. I'm just going to reiterate. If you have questions, put them in the chat. We will get to all of them at the end of the entire video. But just going to reiterate that if it's in that 10 meters before and 10 meters after, it is your responsibility. You are in charge, along with the other officials there. So, in terms of trying to judge in a race, you really don't want to be here on top of the finish line, because it's kind of harder to space the people out. You would ideally try to be when these mats are back. The further back you can stand is the better. Gives you more time to try to pick up the runners as they come in and to separate them as they cross the finish line. Again, sometimes you don't have a choice, but you don't want to be really on top of a dash line or further back. And if you're elevated, that is the technique that you really, really would like to do. Same thing if you're on a curve start. You want to be back as far as possible, but you know you have to deal with TV and seating for stands and coaches and stuff like that. All of that needs to kind of work in. Okay, so as you can tell, I turned it sideways. So the dash happens too quick to talk through it live. So if you're on the finish line, your chances are you're not gonna be able to get all 8 at this level. So you just try to pick off as many people as you can and you're writing it blindly on your form as they're coming down. So if I don't know if you can see my cursor, there's a person here in the gray on the right. That's where you're going to start kind of just saying, okay, who's first, who's second. You start peeling, peeling it back before they get to you. So I'm just going to pause it as they come, and I'm what's mentally going through my head from my point of view, um, as slowly as I can for the video. But when you do it live, it's quicker. It's quicker. And so here, this is where I start picking up. I've got this guy. He's in lane 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It looks like. All right, 6 looks like he's in the lead. Probably 2 next, and then 1. All right, now the guys on the outside have entered the chat. I still got 6 in the lead. Probably 7 and 8 because that's a 10-lane track. Right now, probably we got 1. 6 is gonna win. Probably the guy in yellow. Yellow, then black, and then white. So these are mentally, you have to do this quickly. Right? My prediction is see, yellow, white on the outside, black to the left of him, and then you got maroon shorts on the inside. Right? And then you can pick up these stragglers here at the end. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but that takes a lot of practice to do. With the younger kids where it's slower, you can cut the race in half. One person will pick the front 4, another person will pick the back 4. So that's what we do a lot of times. You could ask questions about that later, but I just wanted to show you what's going through my mind because that's the point of these videos is what's going through our minds and what we're looking at from all the positions on the track. Hey, here we are. We've got a mile. Back to our focus list. To make sure that your lap board is correct. Got 3 start lines. Got 28 people, I believe. That's 2 turns, 1 turn. 28 people in the race. You got a lot of people out there, and good luck. Regular start. So you wait. You just start our waiting for the start. We start our watch. So there are other people doing it right now, just for the sake of the video. This is what we are doing. Okay. This is the lap counting portion of working the finish line. Watch started. I have my assistant coming with the camera here very shortly. We're just going to follow those athletes as they come around. I promise not to give you vertigo like I did last year. I'm going to stay looking forward, and the person's going to hold the phone over my shoulder watching my sheets. Don't forget to zoom in and out, okay? All right. You could just zoom to the top there. Come down to the paper. 7 laps. 1, 24, 9, 10. They're grouped, so draw a line. 16, 13. Line last is 6. Follow the crowd. I will show you the pitch, the finish sheet at the end. Don't worry. To the paper here. You come back to the sheet. So obviously, I write horizontally. I can understand that mess. You need to be able to write something that you can decipher. Okay, let's go back to the top of the turn. I picked them up from right about there. I can see them. I can see 1, 24, 10, 9, 2, 12, 19, 8, 16, 13, 6, 22, 18. Come back to the paper. As you can see, there was a gap of people that they were just too much in a bunch, but you know that they're there. Okay, this time you're gonna stay with the sheep, okay? Over my shoulder. No, you can find this. Okay. 5 to go when they get here. So you put your hand ready to go. Right, you change the lap board as they hit the turn. New leader, 9, 10, 2, 1, 24, 12, 19, 8, 21, 7, 14, 3, line 4, 20, 13, 6, 22. As you can see here, it gets messy. As they spread out, it will clean up. 18. All right. All right, let's get the crowd this time. Zoom and try to visualize they're close enough to see their hip numbers as they go by. All right, they have 4 to go. I see 9, 2, 1, 24, 10. Stay with the car, stay right there. 12, 8, 7, 19, 21, 3, 14, 5, 15, 11, 23, 16, 4, 17, 25, 26, 13, and 22. Come back. Notice the point of view. Focus right on one spot. Nothing else matters about what's going on in that small frame. Down to the sheet. You see them? Oh yeah, it looks like a mess, right? If I need to go back, I can see this here. Last place coming around is 18. All right. Back to the top. All right, stay with the sheet this time. 9, 2. They don't have to be in exact order, but you need to know they're there. 1, 24, 8, 12, 7, 5, 21, 15, 11, 19, 10, 3, 14, 23, 4, 25, 16, 17, 20, 13, 22. And when 18 gets here, that will be. So if I have to go in between laps, when they start getting lapped, then I just have to bounce back and forth. That's it. I do horizontal. Some people do vertical. They work in boxes. 18 is coming around. Close out 18. Come down to the next one. My thumb here gives me the head lap is 2, 9, 18, 1, 7, 24, 12, 8, 5, 11, 15, 21, 3, 19, 14, 4, 17, 16, 23, 20, 25, 6, 10, 22, and 13. You can come back to the race. Right, I'll hold my thumb. Where they at? It's a bell lap. Where's 18? In my mind, where's 18? I haven't seen her yet. All right, we're on the bell lap. 2, zoom in on the lead, on the 9, 1. You can get the runner, zoom in. 7, 4, 5, 8, 11, 15, 3, 21, 14, 4. There's 18 to pass. 19, 16, 17, 6, 20, down. 10, 22, 13. Number 18 is down. And here come our winners. What's the big one? 2, 1, 9, 7, 5, 24, 11, 12, 8, 3, 15, 14, 4, 20, 6, 16, 21, 17, 19, 25, 23. Go back to the crowd. 18 is still coming. Let her know when she comes by. 22. 18, 1 to go. 10, 13, and then when 18 gets here, she will be done. So, this is zoom back. Yeah, that's my mess. I use my thumb to kind of hold where the lead runner is. and I just go back and forth as it is. This race didn't have a lot of lapping, but that is an example of how you can lap count. Okay, I'm going to stop for 1 second. I had one question about this race in particular. Chris, can you read it, please? Chris 40.
Sure. So the question was, why did you start at lap number 7? Can you start at any lap number?
No. So that was a mile. So they start with 8. So there's nothing to write in the 8 line. So the first time they come around where I'm writing numbers because they're out of order at that point would be lap number 7. That's in terms of writing. Make sure your lap board itself starts at 8. You don't ever start that board 1 lap down because some people make that mistake and they forget and you're already a lap short before you go. All right. Thank you, Chris. We're going to come back for more questions in the chat. I just want to get through this video. That was an easy race. Here's a harder race with a 2-mile indoor or a 2-mile. Attempt to do a 2-mile here, but there should be some lapping in here. The other one didn't have 16 laps. See, start with 16 on the board, but when they come around, my first set of riding will be on the 15th lap. To go. Start lines. All right. So let's get going. I'll have my assistants. Hold the camera while I turn the lights. I left the sound of the music there on purpose because that's reality. That's what you got to deal with sometimes. Noise. Go to the camera again. First, they're going to be in a mess. You don't need to shit in the yeah, he cut him before the cone. 22-20 green line. Follow the crowd. So then real quick. Back to him. Turn again. Ten, 5, 19, 7, 4, 18, 11, 14, 13, 15, 24, 22. This last guy's 21. 21 is going to be, stay at the top of the turn for right now. Now we're down to 13. 2 laps in, 21 is already getting lapped, so this will be fun. You guys can cross. Go ahead. Go ahead. What did I say about Marshall in the area? Same. There you go. That's the point of view of working the finish line. 18, 11, 13, 15, 14, so here we start our lap. All right, we got a guy waiting. Step down to the next one. Stay on the sheet for right now. 17, 9, 23. Here's the last one. Back to 21. 13, 6, 16. Go back to the crowd. Go back to the race. 10, 19, 7, 5, 14, 15, 13, 11, 24, 20. There's our leader. 17, 11.
9, 11. Twelve to go, Green. 19, 10, 7, 4, 18. Where's my leader? 11, 15, 14, 13, 5, 24, 22. There's my leader. 10 to go. Second place, 10. 20. Back. 23. 10 to go, 10. 10. Here's my leader. 17, 9.
Notice how I go back and forth on the sheet with the lapped runners, but I'll explain later.
22. 9 to go. 9 to go. Back to the line. 10, 9. See the border. 11. New leader. 9, 17. Back over here. 15, 14, 13. 21 is down there. 24, 22. 5 is here. 23 and 6. 10 is back here.
Second flight, the pit is open. Second flight, a girl,
No,
pit is open.
wrong. 10 is here.
Start time, 5 minutes to 10. Start time, 5 minutes to 10. All
If during the race you hear that call for the second flight of the long jump, you are not concentrating.
bib numbers should be on. If
7.
you do not have your bib number, you will not jump. If you do not have your bib
Here's
number,
the
you
leader.
will not jump. If you
9,
check in, you will not jump.
17.
You do not have a bib number,
11.
young lady. Get a bib number.
From your point of view on the track, you do not hear all those other things going on. You're supposed to be so focused on what's coming around on the track on that oval.
14,
It is
13. 5 people by 4, 22. 6, 23. 21. Come to the race. Come to the race.
Actually, I think it's riding in the
Okay.
race.
Yeah. Okay. I got you. Okay. 6, 11, 4, 11, and 17. 18 is back here. 13, 14, 20, 10, 6, 24, 22, 23, 16. 5, 21 right here. 19. All right, the leader with 5. Checking on myself. 5 to go. Come on, on to go. On to go. Seven, 16, 14, 13, you guys are working together. 24, 22, 18, 23. There's three guys, 13, 14, 15, are running together. Combine them. Twenty. 17, 4, 11, 7, 16,
Right there.
outside. Pass that.
The leader's on 1, and as you can see by this chart, you still got a guy with 4 to go.
Yeah, it's where you want it. Okay, here we go. Get everybody paper, get them finishing, okay? Get them finishing. Four has one go. That's the 6. Nine days on.
Almost done. It's almost done. I know many of you are out of breath. It's almost done. Another less than 2 minutes. Race is almost done. Scanning my 10 meters before and my 10 meters after. Everything is happening. Got other races coming on. I got finishes coming on. I got lap people going through. All looking through my area. While they're finishing, I'm making sure no one is obstructing the camera as they finish.
He ain't done. He's last. He's not done. He ain't done. He is not done.
Last place tried to finish.
What?
I was trying
He
to
stopped.
tell you.
He stopped on his own. He wasn't finished.
You heard that. Communicate that to the manual time.
Was last, and he finished. He wanted to finish before.
Yes. He was like 2 laps short. That one was easy. He was done the lap before. If you didn't hear that, I knew he was done the lap before. So I was just communicating that. That's why I circled that one.
Pause to read. Yeah, circle that number. 5, because he was done. Yes. 20 should be done when he gets here. So I can check back at my sheet to see where 20.
See, if I wanted to check, I can see. This is how I check lap runners. Who are they next to? If you start at 20, looking at the back, he's running next to 22 and 21. He's always in that group. So I can do that with any number on the sheet. Now, if I have that number, if I see 20 all the way in the front, all of a sudden, no, so then I messed up somewhere.
Together in the back. You're done over here, sir.
Right? The same thing. Let's look at number 6 from the top. 6 looks to be 4th. Forget about the place, but just where is he in relative to other numbers? 16, relatively with the same numbers, 19 and 10. You could just see where, if you just go following down, you could see where those guys are. Do people speed up and slow down? Absolutely. But if at the end of the race, how I check, I can go back and go through this. Okay, I'm going to, that was the end of the video. How many people are out of breath? Raise your hand. I know you guys are all out of breath. All right, so I'm gonna go to the chat. Chris, you've been monitoring the chat. And I do have a couple of other pictures to show in a minute. Anything that's about showing lap runners on the paper, just hold those, Chris. But start at the top.
Sure. So actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to break these out into just the more recent questions about the race that just finished on the track.
And work your way back.
So-
Okay, no problem. Okay.
Yep. So for example, one question was asked, how can you tell that there was a guy with 4 to go when the leaders were finishing? What was your rationale in following that?
So that's when I paused the video and I showed that the bell rung. I was writing down he was on the first lap, and I just looked up, and I think it was 21 was the last guy. I saw what 21 was. 21 still had 4 to go. So that's how I know he had, 4 to go. That's what, writing that across does for me. But I will tell you, everybody's brain is different. What works for me may not work for Chris, may not work for Scott, it may not work for John, but that's just how mine works. Go ahead, next.
Sure. Next is, you made a comment that someone finished early. The gentleman wearing black and yellow, you knew was a lap early. Correct?
Yes.
And that identifying that athlete.
Yes. So the same thing. I knew he had 1 to go because I'm writing everything as they come across. He stopped because I could see his pace, and then he stomped off the track, and I'm like, he's not done. I try to yell to the athlete, "You're not done." I tell the finish he's not done. If he stops, that's his. I did my job, so I can't run the races for them. Next.
All right. So the next questions now, I've kind of set them up in order of how the race would execute. So starting at the beginning, is it the runner or official's responsibility to count laps?
The runners should know their laps. Our job on the finish line is to communicate to the athletes the best we can. How many laps? By the rule book, we are supposed to signify 1 lap to go for every runner. So anything before that, is gravy. But I take pride in trying to let everybody know their laps throughout the whole race. And many of the best lap counters do that, especially with masters. Sometimes if you see masters, every time they come around to look at you, how many? So it's typical with masters. Anyone who's done masters know. So I try to communicate as best as I can to those people. If I don't know, I won't say anything.
Okay. What is for you? What is your best position to be in for lap counting? In this case, the person suggested 10 meters before the finish line, 10 meters after the finish line. What do you consider the best position?
Me, I like to be in front of the finish line. I mean up track. So I can tell them before because I'm out of the way of the cameras, I'm out of the way of the clock. But as a lot of you know, if you're doing a really big meet, where they put you is where you gotta stand and you gotta work it to the best of your ability. On the inside, I would prefer. Sometimes you're not allowed, sometimes you're on the outside, sometimes you're in the stands, but I gotta make do what to do.
Or moving to the outdoor track. So for the 1500 and the 5000, do you start with a 4 and 13 on the board or 3 and 12 on the board?
1500 is going to be 3 and the 5000 should be 12 because it's 3.5 and 5. You said 5000?
Yes.
5000 is 12.5, correct? Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
12.5 laps. So yes. So if they're starting where the 200 meters starts, when they get to you, you put it at you at the start of the race is 12.
And so then example back to the indoor scenario when counting the 5000, the first line you're writing on is line 24, correct?
Yes, correct.
All right. And so in the point of lap counting, you're simply trying to capture all the runners you can, but you'll probably not be able to get them all, correct?
Yes, correct. That's why when you looked at my sheet, like in the beginning parts of the race when they're grouped, there's no way you can write it that fast. So I'll get the first one, I'll draw an arrow, and then get the last one. That's the best and I know that's in a group. Mentally, I know that's they're there. And once they spread out, then I start to get individual numbers.
So speaking in the individual numbers, what happens when a hip number falls off?
Uh, you ever played a game concentration? It's like playing a game concentration. You've got to pick. Is it a ponytail? Is it a color shirt? Did they have a run? Did they run with a waggly arm? Something in your brain has to remember those people somehow. If they're all sisters or brothers, then good luck. But you have to whatever makes your brain work. That's what it is. My wife would tell me I walk that line of genius and crazy, more on the crazy side. So you have to be a crazy person to be a lap counter. So
And to piggyback, if I may jump in with a similar answer to that, which is if you're following along with the race, you hope that if you're following along from the beginning, the more numbers you can get earlier in the race, the better off you are. Because when they fall off, you may even know whose number you're missing as you go
correct.
through the race.
Yeah.
Or if you don't know from the jump, I might just write a letter for the school that they're wearing. As an example, just as Lloyd mentioned, something to demarcate or to delineate that athlete whose number you do not have. Right? As you go through the race, how are you able to remember who is down a lap?
Practice, patience, and prayer. I'm not even kidding. It's practice. You just have to memorize. You have to stay calm. And as you see me close my eyes, if you ever seen the movie For the Love of the Game, there's a portion where the guy says clear the mechanism. You literally have to just focus on as we're doing point of view, you must focus on what you're doing.
Yeah, and as one example, and Zakia mentioned this, who's also on our call, a fellow New Yorker, and I do this as well. I will circle the lapped runners, and if you look at the best practice on the website, if you use the vertical version, if you record this vertically, they're suggesting you use lines to demarcate across when an athlete is lapped, so you'll block them off as well. So this is an example here Lloyd is showing of like circles indicating the lap at which an athlete was lapped.
Right? So you can see that. I think that's Janie. Let me try to find yours. I think this is yours. Yes.
Yeah, it's
that's
not, but that's okay.
Okay.
That's Janie's. Yeah, that's Janie's handwriting.
No, this one in the middle. Oh,
The
you know
one
what?
on the screen, this is not mine.
No. Okay. So I'm sorry. I messed that up. Let me go back. This one. This one's yours.
That is mine. Yes.
Right. Okay. So explain what's going on. We're working from left to right, correct?
Correct. So we are working from left to right. So at the top of the page is the number of laps remaining, and down the side just indicates the number of athletes in the race. So in this instance, I knew there were 12 runners in the race. I drew a line at the bottom, so I knew I was only looking for 12 runners. As noted here, this is a Masters race. I was at the finish line for USATF Masters Indoors, and this is the women's 70 to 89 age group. And as you can see, quite a range of ability. As noted by the finish times, the hand times recorded in the far end of the far right of the column. What I noted here is I noted each time this athlete was lapped for the first time, because I knew the lapping was going to get very difficult and circling every single time was going to be difficult. And as noted, number one was lapped on literally on their first lap. So hip number 8, who was the leader, came around twice before hip number 1, who was in last, came around once. And then this indicates each time the circle is indicated the lap at which they were lapped for the first time. So I could go up and down the page to note where, as they were coming around the track.
Yeah,
Another example. Yeah, that's another example. That was might have been a 4x8. So this is the women's 3000 here.
Can you see this here? What do you see?
Yes,
Yes.
that's the women's 3000.
Right. Yes, there's 2 of them. Yeah. So
Yep.
same thing, same concept. All right. So like Chris would say, whatever works for you may not work for everybody.
Yeah.
What else you got going on
And
in the chat there? Yeah, go ahead.
sure. I was say, so speaking of runners who are down a lap, is an official yelling out the number of laps left for the runners and flipping the lap counter board?
Is that our job? Is that the question?
No, is there someone doing it in the course of the race?
Oh, yes. Yes.
From your videos.
Yes. Yes. Someone else's, there's an iPad at that facility. They're changing the numbers there. Typically I would, since I'm the one there, I'm verbalizing the laps, but for the sake of this video, I didn't scream all over the place, but I was talking into the mic what I was doing. But yes, I would be the one saying 5, 4, 7, 3, and so on.
Okay.
One voice should be doing that, because you get too many voices, you get confusion.
Okay, just a couple more questions here. So in the example, because we knew a runner was a lap short, you knew a runner was a lap over, is the idea to turn these lap sheets over to the FAT folks so they can match them up with their times?
Yes. Yes, we do need to communicate that to the manual timers and to the FAT. Hand it in, make some sort of notation, move on to the next race. Clear the mechanism and go again.
And the last question just relates to the sheet itself. Could you send out a copy of that sheet through either through Scott, or I'm not sure how that would happen?
Yeah. I would have to get that through Scott. I don't have that readily. It's in here, but it's buried somewhere in my computer. But yes, for sure. But they are, yes. Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, and there are some versions on the best practice website as well.
Yes, they are.
Folks.
All right, so the chat is clear?
Yes, sir.
All right, Scott. Did you catch your breath yet, Scott?
Go ahead.
No. My part of the presentation is done.
Well, then we're open for questions at this point. I have a question for Chris. What is it that you can trace as a line of development in your technique for streamlining what you do? So everybody who's gotten a new car knows how disorienting it is. You look at the dash and all the lights, etc. And it takes a while for you to just adapt and to have that come as second nature. Same thing in any endeavor in life. So what about you and lap counting, Chris?
I think we would say the exact same thing. If you come to New York, which is what we do for 2 or 3 hours at a time, it's nothing but practice. It's nothing but practice. Would you concur, Chris?
I would. I think it's helpful to to practice this with someone who has a very good skill set. So my poor girlfriend has no track background whatsoever. She's going to slide in the chat here on the screen. Has come to this sport with zero background until we met 2 years ago, and has picked this up very well because the poor woman lives with me. And so
Good
what
choice.
has been what is helpful for her choice, yeah. What I think has been helpful for her is we often work on islands. And so she can build the skill set herself while knowing there's a trusted official next to her that can speak to it in the middle of a race. And I think the ability to work next to someone who is skilled comes in very handy. This couple of weeks ago at Masters, there was a young woman, same thing, who had never really done finish line before and just tried to pick up the skill set as it was going on. I think the advantage of learning this at like Masters and youth is sometimes the kids just, or the athletes themselves aren't coming at you very quickly. I think Lloyd at the high school level, the videos he showed at the high school level are the biggest challenges, and the collegiate level is even more challenging. I think if you can learn this skill set when the athletes are a little bit slower, certainly helps as well if you have that opportunity.
Well, you wrote down the times for the Masters. You had the opportunity to do that, and that's
Yes.
very interesting that you chose that you have done that. I think that's a great way to keep track of folk. Ordinarily, the Lloyd, when I've been on your crew, and you've given out three people, maybe at the most four, to keep track of. Why is it that you are, Lloyd, tracking everybody?
Okay. Once Chris, put that link in the chat for right now.
Oh, sure. Yes, sir.
Yeah, put in. So Scott, to answer your question, when the people was on the side, when I give out the three, there's going to be a link in the chat. Chris is putting there. Save that link. I'll come to it in a minute. Is break glass in case of emergency. What if I pass out in the middle of the race? What if the lap counter, there needs to be, or what if the camera goes out, which has happened? Those people, they're given three people, and they will just track those three people. And break glass in case of emergency, we can get them, get those sheets. Hey, yell at that person, can yell at, you've got two, you've got one, you've got five. Or we can reconstruct the race afterwards if there's a protest, because we have the paper form of it. Right now, the cameras with chips, they do that for us. But like everything else, and the people who know me know how much I love the electronic folks trying to take our job. But I'm not going to say anything more about that. But in case that doesn't work, we have the paper. That's what it is.
Yeah, and I think the reason for writing down the hand times on the lap counter sheet is for that reason. Yes, they are clearly not going to perfectly match up with FAT, but if FAT does fail, there is something they can go to and
Yes.
have on paper knowing the hand times in order to finish. You saw in that the example that Lloyd showed from Masters, the leader won in just under 15 minutes, and the last place person was over 31 minutes amongst 12 people. And so that is quite a time spread over just a 3,000-meter race. And I think it's important to capture those hand times in order of finish. I think Lloyd is correct. We just assume at some point technology will fail. I
Which it
mean,
has.
Lloyd, you had the example of the power go out at Jacksonville in the 4x400 relay at East Regionals a couple of years ago.
Yep.
In the middle of the race, the stadium went dark. And I
Mhm.
think that's one of the reasons we do what we do, is record order of finish and hand times for every athlete. For
Mhm.
every single race, sprints, distance, it doesn't matter.
It happened at the U.S. Outdoors where the lap board went out. I had to pull my manual cards out last year in Oregon.
You can watch that on, yes, the US indoors. You had it fail just recently, 2 weeks ago, right?
Hey, before we get lost, people, there's a link, a YouTube link in the chat. So the original video that I just showed is at that YouTube link. The copy of the Zoom will also be uploaded into that YouTube link. We have Scott, myself, Matt, and Brittany have set up a YouTube channel for training. And as we do these point of views videos, we're going to upload it into that YouTube channel. So
If you have your computer open to email or to your browser, you can just copy and paste
and
the
subscribe.
link
Yeah.
right into a bar and then go right to it after we're done here.
Yes, you could save it. So that's where everything that we do is going to be posted. We're going to try to get them all in there. There may be some other things in there too, but for the most part, that's where the point of view is videos are gonna go.
Let's hear from our attendees. Um, your experiences, questions directly asked. Just unmute and go ahead and give it a shot.
I think we got them most out in the chat, to be honest with you. I think so.
Hmm.
Either that or they're still dizzy from from watching the races.
Hi, guys. This is Pete from upstate New York, and we do a 3,200 meter indoors. And I haven't done the finish line in quite a while. Part of the reason because of that, but we always mandate that coaches, one coach from each athlete in the race, be there to help count laps as well. We don't have FAT for the general league meets. We bring it out for the sectional, the big championships, so forth and so on. The day may come when we have FAT, but even with the FAT, as you've shown, it's very good to have a manual backup as well. And just one comment thought about the missing hip numbers. That happens pretty frequently. You would think that at some point in this great country of ours, they could figure out an adhesive that would cause these things to stay on people's legs. It's particularly problematic, as you guys probably know, with the compression type shorts.
Or when it
But
rains.
as we shown in these nice videos, examples, training things, a lot of meets races, race directors are taking clerks to putting the chest numbers on as well. And I think they're much less likely to fall off, maybe because of the material, maybe because of less movement. And so that's a useful thing as well. So you get the backup to the hip number with a chest number. Thank you for running this tonight.
No problem, sir.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
We use RFID chips to help with our lap counting.
Can I make a request? Could you identify yourself and your association?
I'm with the Border Association in El Paso, Texas,
Ah,
and I assist with the FAT, and we use the chip timing to assist with the distance races.
Yeah, most
Yeah.
places are doing that. But if you're outside and manually doing
Yep.
it, we can't
Yep.
communicate. We just back each other up. That
Yeah.
that's what it is. Yes.
Can I weigh in for a second, Lloyd?
Yes. Who's
This
that?
is Liz Haygood, New England Association.
Okay.
For the masters especially, but in a lot of cases, the masters athletes, especially the older ones, don't like the adhesive on their uniforms. So they actually just pin the numbers on. So that helps from them falling off as well.
That works. That works. Yeah.
Those Masters people are an incorrigible lot, aren't they?
Well, we love them. We love them.
Okay,
That's why
now
we do it.
all of us are going to be there next week, so don't get us started.
We love them. We love them. Yeah. So I'm within my hour there, Scott. I'm pretty good there now.
Oh yeah,
I want to hold myself accountable.
yeah, if you were on an airplane flight, you'd be coming in a little bit earlier, Lloyd. Fly Lloyd Air, kind of like that. Yeah. Well,
Right.
we've had some good comments here. Come on, folks, join in.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we exhausted them. Just so check out the YouTube channel. Save that YouTube channel for all the future stuff that we will be putting there. I think EDM is done, Scott. So I think that will be next. So we will see. I see Rich Scott also put in the next one for best practices in the chat. You could save that.
Yeah, now, Lloyd, tell about some upcoming ones that we're going to have in the point of view, because you're very much up on who's doing what.
Yes. So just off the top of my head, was it Paul? Paul Monastra is doing the EDM along with Dwayne Evans.
Monstra? Yeah.
Yes, he sent me
Okay.
some videos that should be done just on how to set up the EDM machine. It's not a certification of how to do the EDM. Let's be clear.
Phil.
That's a whole other
That's
thing.
that's Phil Monstra.
Yeah,
Phil,
He's,
not Paul.
he's
Yeah,
a he's a Philly guy.
right. So we did that. I have some videos on the horizontal jumps, how to prepare the pit. That is excellent. We're just waiting on the top end of the pit. I have some umpiring ones being done by Patty Rouse. If I can get oh gosh, from Oregon, Elsbrand, what's his first name again?
Well, Ryan Ellsburn,
Yes, right.
he's not from Oregon.
Iowa.
Okay, yes, okay, yes. So he's going to be doing probably the para version of umpiring, of how it's a little different. That we have implement inspections by Ivars, throw.
Ivar's Ekströms from Pacific Northwest.
Yep. Throws is going to be Terry Eason, Monica Johansson, and a gentleman from Brittany, help me out doing the shot. From your area. But anyway, the starters one. When the starters one come, you're gonna want to be on that one because we're gonna have what the starters are seeing and thinking at the start line. When you guys see that one, spread the word for that one. I haven't filmed it yet, but that's gonna be a good one.
Sure. Yeah, an interesting thing is the variety of areas that the
Vertical.
clinicians are coming from. We have superb clinicians and looking very much forward to this particular series.
Yes, the
Uh,
verticals I forgot too. It's Rich Sorenstein, Roger Burbage, and Richard Boyd. They should be doing that.
just got a call from young Roger today.
Yes.
I say young because you're talking about a very spry 80-year-old,
Mhm.
and they're putting together their pole vault video, which is going to be something to look forward to. Okay, so I want to point out to you that I put in the chat the next Zoom coming up is going to be on best practices by the person who had devised the library and curated it for years, Rich Shorenstein. And there's going to be some changes coming to that, including a replacement for Rich, who has just temporarily assumed this position. Apparently, we have Lisa Colvin out of Texas, who's going to be taking over as best practices editor. So, Lloyd, Chris, any final comments before we adjourn?
No, we're good to go.
Thanks,
Yeah, thank
everybody,
you.
for coming on. Very much a pleasure to have you. And take care, and we'll see you next week. Bye bye.